Welcome back to the Automated Construction Podcast. I'm here with 3D Potter CEO and founder, Danny. Danny, thanks for doing this podcast with me today.
Yeah, thanks for coming back second time.
My pleasure. I love having the storyline continue, and the first episode we did at your smaller facility. Now you have this giant facility, 5 times bigger. I don't know how many times more employees. How many people were on your team back then?
We were probably 7 or 8 maximum, and now we're probably pushing 12.
Yeah, and you got a bunch of great guys here, all super passionate about what they do, smart, hardworking people who are going to be working, doing their thing next to us, operating a print for, it's a small wall.
Yeah, that's what we're doing this morning.
I love it because it's parametrically designed, obviously featuring the benefits of 3D printing. Another really cool thing we got to see was the die that you guys use. How did you ideate the die, and what was the process getting it from the initial minimum viable product to what we saw yesterday?
Well, basically I wake up in the morning and I have it all figured out. That's how I've created everything here. But we have the injection, we have the 2K injection system. So it was an easy slide over to go into the colors. And working with Sika, we have the ability to have 3 or 4 different colors. So we're in the process of setting up a PLC so we can actually blend 4 colors simultaneously. So therefore we can have the rainbow.
Like a regular printer, cyan, magenta, yellow, whatever the colors are.
Yeah.
So before we get too deep into what we're working on today, maybe I can talk with Greg about some of that stuff later. I want to talk about the origin of 3D Potter. How did you come up with this company, and where did it start?
Well, I've been an entrepreneur since 19, and I retired probably around 55. Mm-hmm. And I was bored. I retired for 6 months, and I started to, I'm an artist too, a little bit of an artist, and I decided to start with ceramics, and I built a extruder. And I didn't want to start a business at all, but like a lot of other businesses, I created something and the demand was there. So then we evolved into the machines, the ceramic 3D printing Cartesian machines, which did exceptionally well for 6 or 7 years. And at the same time, I started to develop the SCAR machine, which we're printing with today. And it just evolved, and like everything else, I didn't really push it. People came to me and said, can you do this? And now we have a big machine capable of printing big objects.
Let's rewind a little bit further back. So you're 19 years old, and did you have any jobs before you jumped into entrepreneurship? Younger than 19?
No, basically my entire life I've worked for about 6 months. So I'm pretty much self-taught. After 19, I had a yacht building business.
Cool.
And then after that, we had an aviation business. I had a large aviation business with 250 employees in the Czech Republic. Went to China a little bit, manufacturing, and then retired.
Did you sell the yacht building business?
No, it was a custom building, a custom yacht building business. So it had no intrinsic value, really.
And how long did you do that business for?
On and off, probably for 10 years.
Wow.
But I spent a lot of that 10 years testing the yachts in the Caribbean.
And then the aviation business, what was the idea? Did you have an original concept for some kind of plane you want to develop?
No, that happened the exact same way. I built an airplane, and took it to the show and impressed everyone, and they said, can you build me one? Can you build me one? Then I had a small business, and then I went into partnership in the Czech Republic into a large aviation business, and we had U.S. distribution. We sold a lot of airplanes in the U.S. before 2008. The market kind of slowed.
And when you started this business, was it all with your own capital, or did you have outside investors?
It's always my own capital. In my opinion, a small business like this, outside investment, the person is just trying to make money through investing. So I'm ground up.
I agree with that. They usually have like a 5 or 10 year max time horizon, and you just can't build a real business in an innovative way in that kind of time frame.
Exactly.
So how many years ago did you actually start 3D Potter?
8 years.
8 years.
Maybe 8.5 years ago.
Yeah, so it's just getting to that point where in the next 2 years things get really exciting. I know you sold 40 Scara printers in this past year.
Right.
And so that's over $1 million in volume. That's amazing.
Yep.
All self-funded, so you guys have no VC that's going to come in and say you have to give us our debt back or you have to give us the company.
Yeah, if I wake up in the morning and don't feel like coming to work, I don't have to.
That probably rarely happens.
No, but I go fishing.
What do you catch?
We go offshore, so we get mahi and
Nice. Yeah. Is it the boat that you designed and built yourself still?
no, I have a big cat, 26-foot cat.
Nice. Are any of those original boats still floating around?
Yeah, probably. We built some boats for Club Med, the dive boats. So yeah, they're still around.
Cool. And so at what age did you get your pilot's license? I assume you have one of those.
15.
15, wow.
Yeah. But I stopped flying. I totally stopped flying because I was a test pilot for the aviation company I had, and I had probably 5 near-death close
Wow.
calls, and the wife said, "That's it."
Were they weather caused or technology caused?
Yeah, technology.
Experimenting.
Because we were innovating. Yeah.
That's a tough job to do.
Yeah.
A car, at least, if like things go bad, it can maybe slow down to a stop.
Right.
Can you tell a story of one of the crashes?
Well, the simplest one, I actually live on an air park, which is an airport, and I just took off, and it's probably 500 foot off the end of the runway. The choke, something malfunctioned with the choke, and I had to land in a cow field with cows.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So I guess it is a testament to your risk-taking abilities and your a little bit of fearlessness.
Yeah, that's why I have a business. That's why I have 3D Potter and ProBuild.
Is that a feature or a bug? You almost prefer the risk a little bit.
Yes, yeah, 100%.
So when you first started with 3D Potter, you said you were developing this larger system, the Scara, simultaneously?
No, it was probably 3 years in, and I wanted to diversify a little bit for the ceramics, not for cementatious, but it evolved into cementatious products.
Ceramics, large scale.
Large scale ceramics. Yeah, our printers are one of the few printers that can actually go large scale ceramics.
And the software is mostly identical to the small scale ceramic printers you use?
Yeah, that's the big advantage of our machines. It's not proprietary, and you're actually not operating a robot. It's almost identical to operating any 3D printer.
That's very unique. Most of the companies that I visit, they have to develop their own custom slicer, and that's a huge, expensive endeavor. And you guys are able to use Cura, Simplify 3D.
Right.
How are you able to do that when they aren't?
I think they're making it more complicated than it has to be, because Cura and the other slicers are becoming more and more sophisticated. We're also working with Sika. Sika has their proprietary software slicer program. We haven't used it too much, but we do have that available. And that comes into play mostly for housing projects, not so much for, a lot of our machines are used for secondary objects, which are ornamentals or like fire pits or sculptures. So it's really not necessary to have anything besides simplify.
But you are planning on venturing into housing, you mentioned.
Yeah, we have housing projects on the books.
So you start with the ceramics, you start venturing into concrete, and where do you get the very first concrete mix that you try to print with?
Well, actually, it goes back to Sika. So Noah, which is one of the tech supports from Sika, approached me and asked me to help them by testing some of their formulations.
Cool.
And that was about 4 years ago, and I've been in constant contact and testing new products with Sika.
So you started concrete with Sika.
Yeah, basically I did, yep.
And that's the same, not the same mix. They've obviously made a ton of changes and developments based on your feedback and others.
Yeah, exactly.
So initially, were you working with a 1K solution like we see here, or did you instantly jump to the 2K?
We did both. But it took about 4 years to actually develop a functioning 2K, what we call a mix cell.
Interesting. And those parts, a lot of them now, you're 3D printing in stainless steel.
Right.
How did you build the first one?
I probably have, on the mix cell apparatus, I probably have 15 different iterations.
Wow.
So we started out with ABS or ASA, and we proofed the process, and then went to aluminum, make sure it works, and then when it works properly, we went to stainless.
So with the system we're looking at now, what is the price point like on a Scara without the rails and with the 1K extruder head?
Without the rail?
Mm-hmm.
Right around $25,000.
Wow. And once you add the rail and the 2K extruder head, what does it get up to?
Yeah, you're anywhere between 50 and 65 for the smaller machines. And then behind me over here, we have the next generation, which is 14 foot tall. And that'll be with the rail. The price point will be about 130.
Do you find most buyers want the 2K print head?
It depends. It depends on what they're doing. So housing projects, it's not really necessary. But if you're doing secondary sculptures, or if you want overhangs, because you can see by some of the prints we did yesterday, you know, we can have an overhang of almost 45 degrees, and that's not possible with 1K.
But you do have some degree of overhang still with the 1K.
Yeah, right. What we're printing right now has a small percentage of overhang, yes.
So what are the next steps for you to keep growing and expanding the company? Or maybe if that's not what you're most passionate about, what's the next thing engineering-wise that you're most passionate about working on?
Well, the growing part of the company is ProBuild, which you can talk to Fernando later. You don't really want to know what I have on my brain, do you?
I do. That's the...
Should I say what we're printing this afternoon?
Yeah, that would be great.
So this afternoon we're printing with the Cybertruck. So we're actually going to have a fully self-contained, which means all the power, the pump, the printer, everything is on the bed of the Cybertruck. So this will be kind of unique. You could take it to the job site. I don't know how practical it is, but it's going to be fun.
And it's the second time you guys tested like a minimum viable product and then jumped right to doing it on camera. You did that with the die.
Right.
I know you first mixed it in, and then you did it live in front of me yesterday.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah.
And now the Cybertruck, you did a test version of it, and now today, hopefully, your engineers are literally back there working on it right now.
Yeah.
One of them, your son. Very exciting stuff. And yeah.
And the other projects that I'm interested in doing is reef reclamation. So we've been working with some people, And also we're doing some in-house designs and implementation, which I'm passionate about because I like to see. And after that, I have a cement submarine, which I'll be working on.
That's cool. I don't want to ask too many questions about that. I know it's top secret for the moment. What about I know you have a couple samples over there that involve some Hollywood style effects, or some, maybe not Hollywood, but defense stuff, or?
Yeah, so the Sika products are capable of, if properly designed, they're capable of withstanding quite a bit of firepower. So in today's modern environment, there's an opportunity to produce bulletproof and blast-proof type of structures. So,
hopefully, at some future visit, we'll be able to maybe experiment with some of that stuff.
Yep.
How long has your son is 18 and he's back here
Right.
working with you?
Right.
When did he get involved with that?
Every time I drag him here,
So since he was a kid.
yeah, basically.
And has it always been something that's appealing to him? Do you really have to drag him? He looks excited about it.
He's a really good kid. He's homeschooled, so yeah, he's excited when he gets here.
Do you and your wife share the teaching responsibilities, or
Yes, yeah, we have. Yeah.
did you homeschool your other kids?
No,
And that's a special thing. I guess the school system has changed a lot. Is that the reason that you wanted to homeschool him, or do you almost wish that you homeschooled your other kids too?
well, I can't really go back to my other kids, but this one, the teaching environment and the risk factors I thought were too high.
Yeah.
And I didn't want him to learn what they're pushing in the school system, which I'm not 100% on board with.
So how did you change your curriculum from what you perceived the public school curriculum to be, or even private schools too?
Well, there's no woke. Let's be honest. That's what I worry about, and also the culture, the drug culture, the promiscuous culture. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that was smart. He does seem like a great kid. I talked to him a little bit, but so did you give more math and physics and that kind of attention to those subjects?
yeah, basically, yeah, math and physics and not so much history, which is not 100% correct, and just a lot of hands-on also, because I think nowadays the kids going to school come out and they have absolutely no hand skills whatsoever, and this is I think this is a really big problem. So, the school system convinces you to go to college to get a huge loan that you're going to be responsible for, and you come out with no knowledge, basically.
Yeah, you're a great example of somebody who was able to skip that process, skip a lot of that brainwashing nonsense, and still
Yep.
build a big business doing really cool stuff
Yep.
on your own.
Thank you.
Another really cool thing, a little bit irrelevant, but yesterday we were having lunch and you came out with it looked like Gatorade, but I had just listened to a podcast, and so I almost jokingly asked, is that methylene blue? And it was. How did you discover that?
I'm hooked into the alternative side of life, so
Alternative media, independent media.
yeah, no pharmaceuticals. Our family does zero pharmaceuticals, no vaccines. By the way, this is a little interesting, a little off topic, but the reason that kid is so smart is he had one round of vaccines, and he's had absolutely nothing his entire life.
I don't know if you can credit it all to that, but maybe it helped.
Yeah.
Have you interacted with RFK, or have you been a long-time fan of his?
No, not really, because he was, basically a Democrat side
True.
of the fence. But I think he's really going to help.
It's interesting how things have shifted in that. Have you always been on the conservative side, even as a kid?
No, I didn't get into politics per se till, like most people, till mid-age.
Sure. I consume a ridiculous amount of independent media, and so I don't care so much about it, but it's just something I like to absorb and learn about. And one thing I've recognized is that it seems like some policies, like freedom of speech, used to be left-leaning, and have shifted now to the right side, and things are always kind of like pushing back and forth. The right used to be the warmongers, now it seems the left are the warmongers.
I think I got corrupted basically 15 years ago by listening to Alex Jones. I don't know if you've ever listened to him.
Yeah, I live in Austin, Texas, where he's from.
There you go.
We kind of went on a tangent, but I thought it would be really interesting. I tried some of the methylene blue yesterday with you. I didn't notice any significant. I just did one drop, which
That's
is
because you didn't take a mega dose.
I'm certainly interested in the same kind of realm of like independent thinking, and I'm sure you don't go right down the line on all conservative values, I imagine.
No.
It's just interesting to see how people who have that independent mindset are able to do creative new things, and especially 8 years ago when you started doing this, there really were not a lot of companies involved in this sector.
Right.
Do you think more innovation and more free thinking requires things like homeschooling, or how can we inspire more people to not necessarily do everything that you do or that I do or that other people do, but do what they do, independent things?
Well, this is hard, but I think going through the school system, you're taught not to. You're taught to conform and not really think outside the box. Everything I have here, people, told me, oh, you can't do it. It's not practical. So you have to have the ability to think outside the box, basically. And I think the school system is the opposite.
Yeah, I agree. So how did you feel about school when you were in middle school, high school? Did you just feel like you were getting programmed? And
I was in prison. Yeah, I basically felt like prison to me.
I felt the same way.
And I was horrible. I came out of high school, I could hardly read.
Wow.
So, but I did good in art class, and yeah.
Have you picked up reading since?
Oh yeah, I'm
A big reader?
Yeah, I'm not illiterate.
Of course not. Do you enjoy reading a lot?
No, not really.
More math and science guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then most of the things that you've learned have been through life experience, talking to people, and
Right.
Did you have any mentors?
Well, you probably know Ron Real.
Mm-hmm.
So Ron was a little bit of an influence, not so much, well, even when it came to the machines in the early days, because he wanted to print Adobe, outside in Colorado. So I worked with Ron, and he gave me some directions on which way the machines, the direction of the machine should go. So I give credit to Ron.
I love that answer because you guys think so differently on so many other things, and Adobe is one of my favorite materials out there. You can just dig it up, and one of my favorite parts about construction automation, 3D printed construction specifically, is the decentralization of it.
Right.
It's not like prefab where you need a $20 million warehouse and one person controls the facility. Someone can buy, Ronald Real got the $20,000 version of the printer.
Right.
And started, it was Emerging Objects at the time, now it's Money Robots. It's construction is like the 3D printed construction is like the decentralized version of construction, where you don't need millions of dollars of equipment and cranes and all this other stuff.
That's where we're going. So the whole reason we developed this machine is so you can come into the market at a lower price point. You can put it on the back of your pickup truck, come to the job site, set it up, in a couple of hours, and so your initial setup cost is a fraction of what a large machine would be.
And then once you take it off the pickup truck, back the pickup truck back into the printer. And if you don't have one of these great rail systems, potentially use the truck as the rail.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
It might be the second time you attract Elon's attention with one of your projects.
Yep.
At Art Basel Miami, you had some of those star prints.
Yeah, we did about 50% of the stars.
And I guess Elon was at Art Basel or something, someone said.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, he's done a couple printing projects, a laundry room, and the school that him and Trump's kids go to in Boca Chica at SpaceX. I got to see the school. I drove by when they were printing it. They kind of like, when they left the site, they left the doors wide open for me and stuff, but I figured it would be better not to do the video because it's a school and you don't know,
Right.
you don't want like people knowing about it or getting details. But it's maybe a testament to Elon's belief in the technology or the future of it,
Right.
that he wants his own kids growing up in that environment.
Yep. And of course, on Mars, we're gonna need 3D printers on Mars. The habitat.
Yeah, the space stuff goes way over my head. I always figured it would be the boring company digging underground in Mars because you have all the radiation and all the...
Yep.
But I guess you got to do something with all that dirt, and if you can then print stuff above ground,
Right.
maybe that's a nicer way for people to live. If someone offered you a ticket to Mars, are you going? If they said, we need your technology up there, we need you to go.
No, I'm okay.
Do you think your son would?
Possibly.
I don't think that I would want to go.
I think it's a one-way ticket.
These days. Although with the Starship, they're catching it, it's landing, so you don't necessarily want to send them back empty.
Yep.
Are there other emerging technologies you've explored over the course of your life?
You mean going forward?
Looking backward, were there other things like new, like 3D printing and were there other things that caught your attention?
No, I spent a lot of time in aviation, design, development. So,
Also boats, never cars?
yeah, when I was a kid, of course,
Back when you could actually get under the hood and work with the stuff without
Right.
proprietary
Yeah.
parts and all the... Do you remember your first car?
Yeah, I had Corvettes in the beginning. That if I kept now, they'd be worth a couple of $1 million.
I love the new Corvette, the mid-engine C8.
Yep.
How do you feel about this print happening?
It looks good. I'd like to go over there and micromanage it, but you've got me here stuck in the seat, so.
I'm actually really happy to see that it's going so well without you micromanaging it. I guess maybe you enjoy touching it and being super involved in the process, but that made me a little concerned that maybe your team didn't have the skills to do that without you, but clearly they do.
They're getting there, yeah.
What changes would you make if you were over there dialing things in? Is there anything?
Well, it's all about the temperature and the layer time.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to have long enough layer time to allow the transition to happen.
If somebody wants to get started with this technology, they just have seen the videos, what kind of like preconceptions or what could you arm them with to make them more prepared for after they have the printer?
That's an excellent question. Like we discussed yesterday, a lot of times we'll sell a printer, the complete package, the complete solution, and the customer takes delivery of it, but they're not successful because they don't have the knowledge base. Because essentially you have to have some construction knowledge base in how to use the process plus the material. So in the past, we've produced educational YouTube videos to help our customers. But what we're doing now with our sister company, ProBuild, we're going to offer the ability to our customers or to anyone else to come in and actually do a print like we're doing today, have hands-on experience and learn the process, learn the materials, and learn the machine.
What's the name? Is the YouTube channel 3D Potter where they can watch those videos?
3D Potter, and the sub-channel is Tech.
Cool. 3D Potter Tech. I'll try to remember to link that in the description. I wish more people were making videos because they, like, people can come visit your facility and talk to you, but the video lasts forever and it can be watched by 1,000 people, not just the one person that gets to visit in that day. And the more people making videos, the more people can see the technology and get excited about it. So you mentioned you're planning on implementing like an in-person training.
Right.
What would that look like?
Well, I think you should talk to Fernando a little bit about that, but basically the people are going to come down probably for about a week. So there'll be like 5 days of hands-on experience. We'll be printing, learning the machine, but also we have a very extensive knowledge base for designing secondary structures and even housing projects, helping with building permits. So it's going to be the whole gamut of cementatious 3D printing.
Yeah, nothing beats hands-on experience, so people can get that opportunity. What do you think the price point of something like that would be?
I'm not sure. We're working on that.
And of course, they would show up with a team, usually.
Yeah, yes. A lot of times we'll sell a machine and the customer will show up with a team of like 5 people. We'll teach everybody.
The first time I visited, it was just me and you were printing with just one guy on your own.
Right.
You let me press one button, but I didn't really help that much. Today, you've got more people involved, but what's the minimum number to operate? I don't think other people would have the same level of skill you have. You're like riding your own dragon. You developed it from scratch. But is it like 2 people minimum or 3 people minimum? And then what's the recommended number?
I think if you had a highly skilled team in a proper feeding system, 2 people. Mm-hmm. But I think ideally 3.
I know you're developing a new feeding system that we won't talk about today, but hopefully in the future. So today, 2 people with the more advanced system, maybe 3 people would be, they show up with 3 people, and then you have an operator, a mixer, and someone watching the extruder head and kind of communicating with the operator.
Right.
Cleanup is obviously very important.
Yeah, that's the difficult part of the process, but also the advantage of our machines, because the really large machines have like 150 foot of hose, lots of cleanup, where you can see we've got like 20 feet of hose here, and cleanup is a lot easier. We have a much smaller pumping system, so yeah, that has to be fine-tuned.
It's great to see that you have the cleanup station. You can power wash everything in the contained area.
Yep.
With the printer, I imagine you just shove a orange sponge ball through there, and that cleans it out pretty quickly.
Right.
It's, I guess, really the mixer system that you need to get all the concrete out so that it doesn't harden.
Yep.
And I'm sure there have been times where it did harden. Is it junk, or you have to chisel it away, or?
Well, I think we've only lost 1 hose, so we're relatively good. But I've had customers that would start to go off in the pump, and then they would go to lunch, and then call me after lunch and ask me what to do. And I would say, well, I'll send you a PO for new parts.
That's the hose. What about the mixer pump system?
Well, the hose and the rotor stator. So if you don't clean out the pump, you can lose the rotor stator. And it's not that bad. It's like 200, 250 bucks.
Yeah, those have gotten a lot cheaper over the past 5 years, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What's led to that? They used to be like $1,200 for a rotor stator.
The big companies like Grobco, you know, I mean, they charge a lot of money. They're really, they shouldn't be more than a couple of $100.
It's a piece of steel, a piece of rubber, another piece of steel.
Yep.
So the market for rotor stators expanded, and it was like a volume thing, or?
Well, I think a lot of them come from China.
So right now you're using the 1K mix, but you're still getting the die effect.
Right.
Are they manually dosing it into the mixer?
No, but we're putting it back. We're putting it in the
I
pump.
see. Yeah, so instead of feeding it into your 2K print head, you have it feeding, dripping.
Right, yes, like yesterday, yep.
And they just twist the dial and that automates the flow. Very cool. Is there anything important that we missed that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, I think it's a fun project to be able to create your own objects. So when we do houses and secondary structures, I think we really have to put artistic ability into the structure.
Yeah.
And not just print a square house or, you know, a square fire pit. So the machine really opens up for your artistic ability to be creative.
Once you integrate that, it's really unbeatable in terms of like, you wouldn't be able to make form work for a design like this. And if you did, that would be a whole construction process in itself to just do one time. You could have a whole home built with elements that are completely unique. Nobody's ever seen them before. On the flip side, having one of the most affordable, if not the most affordable concrete printing system, a lot of people are interested in affordable housing and making housing cheaper.
Right.
That's something that you guys ultimately are interested in as well?
Yes, 100%. And our big machines are kind of, would be ideal for that, because the machine can travel 360 degrees. So if you can design the house within the footprint of the SCAR printer, you put the printer inside the house and you print externally in one print.
So if the printer part, the mechatronics mostly, let's assume that's solved, now you have the problem of the material for this stuff is pretty expensive, right?
Well, yes. There's several different suppliers trying to come up with a more affordable mixture, and I think it's going to happen in the future.
It makes sense that the more available the printers are, the bigger the market becomes, the bigger incentive there is for them to invest in. Yeah, we can't talk too much about the other stuff, but maybe that'll be a part of the steps to get to that ultimate vision. And while we're approaching that, these artistic projects are like the Tesla Roadster on the way to that journey.
Right.
Well, this has been one of the most wide-ranging podcast intros we've done. Can you, before we get Greg on, can you tell me a little bit about Greg?
Well, this is interesting because as the company was growing, I had connections with Spam. You know who Spam is?
Ham, right?
Spam.
Is the canned meat?
No, it's I'll let Greg, come on over. What does SPAM stand for?
Oh, speed, power, and maneuverability.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a bunch of kids and robots. So I was connected with SPAM, and I had quite a few kids actually come through the program, and Greg was one of them. and he's exceptional. And he's been with me for, I think, 6 years, maybe 7 years now.
So you were a mentor in the SPAM program.
Yeah.
It's great.
Inadvertently.
Okay. How did that happen?
Well, I knew the people in SPAM, so I got one kid, and it was like, nepotism. They just kind of gravitated.
Was it your son that's here today, or one of your other children?
No, it was just somebody else. Yeah.
Cool. So, do you remember what you were there mentoring when you met Greg?
Well, they just came on to build the machines.
Okay, yeah.
To help with the robotics.
They wanted to see what you were working on.
Yeah.
I understand. And Greg was one of those kids and fell in love with it.
Yep.
Very cool. I'm not sure if that's in the shot, but your team's doing some quick thinking over there. You ready to switch out with Greg?
Yep.
Thank you so much. It's been a
Thank you for coming out.
great intro to the podcast. I'm really glad you did it.
Greg.
Just here.
Greg,
Hello.
welcome. How you doing?
Good.
We met for the first time at World of Concrete this past year. You gave me a great overview of what you guys were working on. I was super impressed with the way it seems you guys are preparing to take over for Danny and keep this company going for a really long time.
Yeah, exactly. So, as you know, Danny, the founder, I've been with him for 7 years and gained a lot of the knowledge from concrete and clay 3D printing over the years, in addition to working and developing these machines.
Let's start at the beginning. So you were in the SPAM program. Was that with a high school or college program? Or?
So that was a high school program. I started there when I was a freshman.
Cool.
And I stayed there all the way throughout till my senior year.
What's that program like? I've never heard of it. So they do robotics stuff?
Yeah, so there's a actually international organization called FRC, and every year they come out with different tasks and games that you have to design a robot for and play. And we competed at the international level, many times going to Houston, Texas for the world competition.
And what was the competition for?
Every year it changes. It's kind of like a sports game except for robots. So they come up with a new game each year, and you have to tackle all the different little problems that they give you.
Which one did you place highest in?
We pretty much came to the same point every single year.
Wow.
So it was a very strong team, and it still is. Back in 2012, they actually won the world championship.
And what was the challenge in 2012, do you recall?
Basketball playing robots.
Cool. Was it self-driving cars at one point, or self-driving?
Every single game has like an autonomous part, so where you have to write code and program for, I believe it was 30 seconds worth of completely autonomous gameplay.
And were you mostly involved in the software side, the hardware side?
I was more in the hardware and manufacturing design side, so that's what I do here.
Very cool. And they not only do, I guess, the robotics challenges, but also it was through that program that you came to 3D Potter. They get to see like real world applications too?
Yeah, so from the experience that I gained there, 3D printing using CNC machines, manual machines, soldering, electrical, I came to Danny actually right when I turned 16. So since I was 16, I've been working with him. I saw pretty much every machine from the Scar V4 on and helped with the earlier versions. And we developed the Roadrunner while I was here. So all those skills that I gained in high school, I passed over to here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Not enough people get involved with that kind of stuff, but maybe more are. What would your advice be to somebody who's like in high school? How do we get more people involved in programs like that?
I think it depends. There's a lot of high schools that have these programs, FRC, as well as even like elementary schools. They have like a Lego version of it.
Cool.
And I think most people have access to some program like that, but after high school, I still worked here, but I just recently graduated with my bachelor's in business administration. So now I have the skills for engineering and business management.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice. Why business instead of engineering?
I've learned so much here, and I do pretty much everything engineering around here with Danny that I didn't feel the need to go off for engineering.
Makes sense.
I figured we need strong business application here. You know, we already have the hardware down. So I went to school for that, and here I am.
Business classes were so much easier than, I studied business and engineering as like a joint major, and the only difficult business class was statistics.
Yes, that was very difficult.
That was yeah.
It's
Engineering stuff is so much harder, the stuff that you actually work on.
exactly. And you know, we're always coming up with new challenges and techniques here on a daily basis. So we actually had the college come by for our grand opening.
Cool.
And they asked, why didn't you come into the additive manufacturing program? I was like, I've been working at it for 7 years, so I needed some other skills that would pertain to our business.
Yeah, that's actually super logical. You could have taught their additive manufacturing program. The teachers probably had less experience with it than you did.
Yeah, at least in cement, but they're actually building a program that looks like for our equipment.
That's
in the near
great.
Future.
Will you be involved in that?
That's uncertain right now. I know Fernando from ProBuild's involved with that. I might have a little bit of involvement, but
My biggest complaint through education was that the teachers were never the doers, and so it would be great to have people like you who are the doers going back and kind of like giving some of that knowledge, even though it's maybe not the best use of your time, who knows?
yeah, exactly. Many of my favorite classes throughout college were the older professors that came, they went through a whole career worth of experience, and then they said, I want to come back and teach, and they teach something that they're really passionate about. So
Hopefully you guys can keep making a bunch of videos. Danny mentioned you have the YouTube channel, and that's a great way to, you don't need to go back in class and only teach the small room of people. You can do a video that may reach thousands of people, and that's a great way to show people. And it's not only educating them, but also inspiring people to be your future customers too.
exactly. So we're tackling more of the social media nowadays than we have in the past.
Great.
And we're printing here almost every single day, trying to show people, look, you could buy our equipment for a fraction of the price and be profitable within a year. We have many success stories of customers buying this equipment, and they're profitable, working, selling parts, pieces all over the world.
It's a unique position to be in, to have an engineering mind going through a business school. So what were the takeaways that you had from your business classes?
So it was actually very interesting. Many of the projects that I did in business, I revolved around 3D Potter. So when we had a project going through, there were too many of them, but almost every paper I wrote about my experience here, that way when the professor wrote it and gave us feedback, it helped me connect better to our industry, because we're such a new and niche portion of construction and manufacturing that many of the classes don't teach the business skills behind this.
Was there a particular class or teacher that you thought was the most impactful?
I actually really liked my finance class and professor. He was an older guy, and like I said, he actually came back to teach after he sold off his financial business.
Cool.
And he taught a lot about money management, investing in companies. So that was very, very helpful.
Long term, I guess you'll be a big part of the business mind behind 3D Potter. Is your plan to sell the business one day, or be a merger or acquisition, or do you have any premonition for that?
Yeah, for right now, I know Danny wants to keep the business all under one person. If you sell off, it becomes very difficult to handle shareholders and please everybody,
Yeah, I agree.
How we're set up now, and I hope to continue that legacy after Danny, because, we can do so much more here and take big risks in making new equipment that if you're public or you sell off to other people, they might not like.
So you'll get the revenue to do that by selling printers, supporting customers.
Exactly, and that's That's kind of one of our biggest selling points other than the price. We're one of the very few manufacturers that stock components and build the machines domestically. So when we sell to universities, some of them have government contracts. They can't buy other printers because, they're coming out of foreign countries. So when the government gives them money, they're like, hey, we want you to buy something in the US. That way, when it comes time for the government to do the same thing, they come back and buy the same equipment domestically.
Yeah, I always compare Danny's original models to like Tony Stark in the cave casting things in sand. And were you involved in any of that sand casting?
Yeah, we actually still do to this day. There's one component on our equipment that we still do sand casting for. That's going to be the Roadrunner drive system, that casting. We're moving that over to mass production soon, but we're still doing it by hand. Back in the day, we had a bunch of sand pits in the corner of our old warehouse, dipping slurry, building the molds, 3D printing. We had some of those old Creality big machines, those really ancient ones, and that's what we built all of our parts off of.
Wow.
But nowadays, it's outsourced to a local company here in Florida, and we bring everything in here to our new CNC mill, and our tolerances are way tighter. The machines work better, and they're just miles ahead of where they were 4 years ago.
That's cool. So even you've been working here for how many years?
Just over 7 years now.
So in your 7-year career, you've seen an evolution of the technology catching up to be able to achieve your goals.
Yeah, exactly. So we started off 3D printing with Adobe on the SCAR version 4. That started initially as a clay printer, but we had some customers that wanted to print Adobe with it. And once we saw that market take off, we started developing the SCAR Elite, which was essentially just a larger V4, to now where this is a completely different drive system. It's more robust, better for outdoors, and we have our custom software for the Roadrunner track. So it gives us a really unique ability to do walls, but also 360 printing, where some of the larger machines at this footprint can only print on one side.
There's a lot of stuff that you can't talk about what's next. I know you have really cool stuff you guys are working on, but as far as the things that are not proprietary, private right now, what does the future hold for the engineering and R&D side?
Yeah, so we've already launched. We have the SCAR HD. That's for sale now, but
what's that?
That is this machine sitting over here.
Oh, cool,
this was the R&D version 1. We already have another design coming out that we're just about ready to launch because we saw the few things that we needed to make more robust, and it's all getting better,
Yeah, Danny touched on that a little bit. 14 feet tall.
Yeah, it's 14 feet tall, so the print height is just over 10 feet, and we're going to reach 15 feet in diameter, so you can print a full room. Now, that same machine is going to go on a Roadrunner track that's roughly 20 feet long, so you could print 15 plus the 20, you're just over 30 feet wall segments. In a package that weighs, right now our target is under 400 pounds in 2 pieces, so it's still movable with 2 or 3 guys.
On a pickup truck?
Yep.
That's maybe one of the smallest form factors out there. Every construction site has a pickup truck. You don't need like a flatbed or a 18-wheeler.
Exactly. You could even have a smaller SUV and just have a 20-foot flatbed trailer. We've had customers use those. I've even seen people put on top of like a van, like a Sprinter van. So
once you get involved in some of those larger projects, moving the printer and calibration becomes one of the big challenges. Do you have any engineering ideas for how you can assist with the calibration process?
Yeah, so we're working with a couple people. Right now our machines run off of Simplified 3D mostly. You can use Cura, but it's not quite as good, but we're working on building a custom slicer that allows you to place the object exactly where you want it in relation to where the printer is sitting. So you don't necessarily have to get the machine totally centered on your slab.
Wow.
Some of the other things that are coming down the road and we've seen people implement are printing in modules like you see here. So as opposed to moving your machine a whole bunch of times, you could think about setting up your machine in the center of your slab printing 3 or 4 modules at a time and moving them into place. You're going to be able to print much faster because now you don't have the retuning and calibration of your setup.
So you do like a factory in the field system.
Exactly. You know, you can do factory in the field or factory in a warehouse and move them, but that's the versatility of these machines.
So would that be done, the relative positioning via camera or LiDAR or some?
No, mostly. So in our interface, you can actually jog the machine to a coordinate, and it gives you back exactly where that is. So you can find where the corners of your slab are, and you'll be able to put that in the slicer eventually to where that comes into line.
So it seems like you'll have options for both directions, whether they want to do the factory in the field and move pieces or do very large pieces and put them in place.
Exactly, yeah. So one of the other aspects of this, if you're building a community, you could think about, you know, we could buy one of these enormous gantry machines or a couple of the less expensive but still quite expensive robots. Or you could buy like 8 or 10 sets of these, set them all up on one, put up like a temporary awning so that your workers don't have to be out in the sun. And you're printing with 8 nozzles all day. You're going to have your community done way faster than, you know, just having one big machine with one nozzle.
How did you find out Danny was doing this stuff?
So you mean back in the day when I started?
8, 9 years ago, however long ago.
Yeah, so I actually, funny enough, I met Danny's oldest son. We used to fly like those RC drones, so they,
cool.
You've seen them online, they do FPV drones. So
like the plane style drones or
no, like quadcopters.
Cool.
So I still do that a little bit, but I've been too busy here.
I didn't know they had the FPV stuff back then. It was like they had the whole headset and everything?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I started out doing that with Danny's son, and then later learned that some of my friends from the robotics team worked with Danny.
And you had heard of 3D printing, obviously, at that time.
Yeah, I was pretty involved with 3D printing at the time.
But
so I had
have you
a lot
ever
of
seen
those
it
skills.
such large scale?
At that time, this didn't really exist when I came into the business. You know,
It was just the ceramic stuff?
Yeah. So once we came here, it just, you know, through the years we've exploded in size, both machine size and you know, company size. We moved from Danny's airplane hangar out at his house to 3,500 square feet over in Stewart, and now we're at 15,000 square feet here in Palm City.
Wow. Yeah, it's an awesome story, and I'm really happy today that we're able to add this chapter to it. Hopefully there'll be a lot more chapters in decades going forward.
Exactly.
Is there, what, from your perception with your business education, what do you think the company needs the most right now to grow?
I think we have an amazing product right now. We have a few minor variations or things that we're going to change to make it even more user-friendly.
Hopefully you always will, because that's what's most
yeah.
exciting to me, is seeing what you guys, the new engineering stuff you're working on.
If anybody walks in the warehouse at any given moment, there's always a new product or a new version of something sitting on the desk.
Or 5.
Yeah, or 5, you know. So we just stay ahead of the game by keep implementing new procedures, new equipment, and then we really need to work on some more publicity, because it's crazy how many people come to us just based off of word of mouth, but don't know that we have concrete machines, and we've been doing it for years. So
that's what you're mostly interested in, growing the concrete side of the business?
yes, because, you know, we're pretty well established in the clay area. You look up clay 3D printer, we're pretty much one of the first people that come up.
Cool.
When you look up cement, we come up, but we're not quite as high. So we're trying to show the world basically what we have and build that brand to where we're a staple. You know, you go to buy a 3D printer and you're like, for cement, and you say, oh, 3D potter, I can build something that I can drink coffee out of, or I can build something I can live in.
Yeah, I would say, even though, like, I get a lot of views, but the best publicity, the best marketing you could possibly get is successful customers. So when you guys have people out there doing stuff, it's like, that's the best, like Ronald Real doing awesome stuff there, and hopefully like seeing a house like this be completed with the parametric design, like there's nothing like that in Florida. So I think just continuing to do what you're doing is like the best way for you to get that publicity, and like you said, continuing to put out videos. And
yeah, so I don't know if you've seen a lot of our Instagram, but we print almost every day, but every day we're posting other people's success in prints, because you know, it's one thing for the manufacturer to print something and be successful because we know the product.
Exactly.
It's another thing to show off. We have hundreds of these machines, clay and cement, out in the world, and people are using them every single day and creating some really cool pieces, you know, both artists and professionals.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like there's a lot of different people who have built a printer and they're operating their own printer, but that's it. They haven't passed on that knowledge. So to show that you guys have passed on that knowledge to customers is it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see even more of an explosion as a lot of these students from universities come out into the workplace. They're going to have worked with our equipment and say, hey, we love the 3D Potter equipment and we want to start a business, or they're working with somebody that wants to do clay or cement 3D printing.
That's so true.
We've already started to see it a little bit.
It's hard to get younger people excited about construction and labor jobs, but obviously this technology kind of like bridges that gap. Like brings you here, brings a bunch of these guys that are in their 20s, 30s.
Yep.
It's hard to see that on construction sites today. It's like a lot of old 40s, 50s.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're kind of bringing a new approach to construction here. You know, there's a lot of people out there that are doing similar, the same thing, but you know, nobody wants to be out there lugging bricks everywhere when you could have the same crew at a higher skill level working on 3D printing these structures under shade. You know, it's a much more pleasant work experience to be working around this equipment compared to how traditional construction is.
What were some of the trials and tribulations getting to the point you are today where everything is kind of like printing smooth?
Man, back in the day we started with Adobe, and Adobe's real easy to print. We use it for demos all the time because you can reuse it. Mm-hmm. We started developing a lot of this equipment in conjunction with Sika, which is the material that we're printing here today. And some of those old mixes, they would set off in like 5-10 minutes, and we lost pumps and hoses. And throughout our experiences, we've really nailed down a process to where we can slow that reaction time down of the cement in conjunction with changing the mix. And you know, our equipment was good back then. It was just getting that material to work how we wanted it, because traditionally when you work with cement, you're going to mix up a big batch and toss it on a slab or pour it, you know. We're only printing out a little bit at a time, which uses less material, and you don't want it to dry up on you.
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember the first time I visited Danny, he was just printing, and even at World of Concrete, you guys were printing, that was Adobe mix?
Yep.
So is there no cement in that?
No cement, it's just sand, water, and clay. It prints the same as the Sika material. It acts in the pump very similar.
But it only gets up to maybe a few inches before.
Yep, because we don't, you know, just for the use of reusing it, we don't put any plasticizers or any extra material in there. It's just sand, water, and clay. You know, we have it for a few months, work with it with customers, and then toss it out when we're done. Where, you know, if we fail a print here, we lose the whole thing, but we're getting to the point where failed prints are almost a thing of the past. We're assuming the material is good.
Hopefully you are always working on new stuff that's kind of like cutting edge, and if everything is working, that means you're not trying enough new stuff. So there should always be a couple
Yeah, exactly. So we had, I guess one of the most recent failures we had was we started working with this color more recently, and it's been working very well. One of the first days we used it, we realized the coloring the activator did not work as well with the coloring, so we had to get our settings dialed back in the water content of the cement mix, as well as we have water chillers on our equipment. So now that we have that process down, you can see we're printing almost flawlessly with very good.
Yeah, there's always
mixes.
different challenges that come up. Like with one of those vases yesterday, there was the accelerant had started to crystallize, and so
Yep.
they, in the moment, used I guess it's a sieve, and they filtered out all the crystals and got it.
Yep. Yeah, it's all these little things, but once you have an experience once, you know how to tackle it. For example, like you said, that activator, we make it thinner, and sometimes if it's sitting around in the shop too long, it'll crystallize.
Yeah.
So you gotta take out the gunked up activator, and then that way it doesn't clog up your system. But once you have a good mix, it's running perfect.
Everything's more difficult on camera too because people want to make sure their hair looks good and stuff, and forget
Yep.
some of the little details.
Exactly. Yeah, this wall seems like it's printing quite well today. Yeah, we'll see. We're supposed to go up to, I believe, 4 or 5 feet on this segment. It's going to possibly become a desk up front, is
Oh,
what I've
great.
been told.
That'll be really cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what this costs you guys to, not what you would sell it for, but your like in-house material cost to produce this?
I actually don't know the answer to that. We had a couple of price changes on the material lately, but
Up or down?
it was just a little bit up, just a little bit. But as more people come to the market with more materials, it's going to push that price down.
I know it has come down since it was maybe $800 or $1,200 per ton before, and now it's a lot less.
Yes, that is correct.
Hopefully there'll be more localized production and other things like that that'll help.
Yeah, we're, Sika, they opened up another plant here in Haines City, Florida,
great.
where they're making it. They have one up, I believe, in Ohio. And there's a whole bunch of other companies that are starting to tackle the same market, although it might not be as profitable right now, but 5 years from now, if they get their mix right, they'll be selling a ton.
And even if it's not competing with a 2x4 lumber desk you could build yourself, for what it is, this custom parametric design desk, you can't get that anywhere else.
Exactly. Like you said, there's no other way to make this design or any of the pieces sitting in front of us here without a 3D printer. You could mold it, but then you have to buy a mold. What happens if you want to print out 4 completely unique objects? You need a printer for that. It would be boring if every single person had the exact same house or statue. If you could print out everybody a slightly unique one, it just makes it much more valuable to the consumer.
4 or 5 feet, it's almost like bar height
Yeah.
or standing desk.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's 4 feet, not 5 feet now that I think of it, but we'll
You
see.
seem like someone who loves learning.
Yeah, there's not a day where we go by here without learning something. Whether it's some little thing in a failed print, or sometimes it's not a failed print. Maybe it's the coloring didn't work, or one part of the print didn't look quite as well. We're learning from that every day. I actually didn't have much. I had a little bit of CNC experience when I came in here, and over the past 4 or 5 years, now I'm pretty much the only one in the shop here that's writing the programs, making sure everything's in tolerance, and making a lot of these components.
Looking forward, is there stuff that you're having like the pipeline that you want to learn in the future?
That's hard to say because I'm involved with so much in the shop
Yeah,
here.
there's always the time limit.
Yeah, it's hard to find time to make something new, but we have a few projects that I don't want to speak on quite yet.
If you had
that we're working
infinity
on.
time, what kind of things would you choose to learn?
Probably computer vision and programming. That's the only thing right now that I don't have a whole lot of skill on. Yeah, like you were talking about before, positioning, it'd be cool one day if you could put targets down on your slab and just say, here, print your wall.
Do you ever use AI for learning stuff?
We don't for learning things? Yeah, it's a good tool sometimes. If you want a quick answer to start your research, you'll ask the question, then you can research from there. But we have one customer in particular who's trying to integrate our system with some sort of AI intelligence. Now, I don't know what the extent of that is, but I've heard a little bit about it, and I'm interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm always a little bit skeptical, especially with software stuff and AI. Everybody wants to say all this stuff works, but the best use case I found for it is just like getting probably better than your average college professor advice on like something you don't know anything about yet. Like I used it for using TensorFlow to measure the fill level of a fish tank. And I don't have any coding skills. I'm sure you're way more coding competent than me with Python and figuring out all the CNC stuff. But just like asking AI to write the code for me, asking where do I put this stuff? How do I connect the cameras and stuff? AI is so good for like learning stuff. Yeah,
where your bar used to be like up here, AI now gaps that bar to where you could start at a higher level. So
I was gonna say, like you were talking about, you'd like to learn that TensorFlow stuff. You probably don't even need to learn it. You could probably just ask.
It could do a lot of stuff for you in regards to that, but the problem is integration. We've tried it a little bit in the past. It's very hard to integrate into CNC or 3D printing equipment. It just doesn't have the skill yet, but maybe in the next couple of years we'll be there. To where it'll easily integrate with the control boards and systems that we use here.
Maybe faster.
Yeah, possibly. We'll see. It seems to be getting better every day.
Is there any other important stuff we should discuss?
Let me think about that for a second. I think we covered everything. Yeah.
People always say that, but it's never. There's always a million other things we could cover.
I'll walk away for a couple minutes and I'll be like, oh, I wish I thought about this. Actually, there is one thing. So I don't know if you got any footage yesterday of this new CNC equipment we have in the back.
I didn't, but we should definitely do a walkthrough of some of that stuff and include it in the vlog.
Yeah, so we started, back in the day, we had this really old CNC mill, which worked well, but it could only cut so fast. And recently we've invested in a new one, and our tolerance are so much tighter. There's less variance per machine, which makes it easier for us to produce some.
Cool.
Currently, because of that, customers will say, how long till we get a machine? I can get you your whole set of machines, whole equipment set in a month. That's much faster than most other manufacturers out there.
So it's only a month lead time from order to delivery?
Depending on our order book, yeah. So you could put an order in. We have many of these machines in stock, and then we'll customize them, put them on the correct size track or rail, and send the package out to you. So
cool.
Our lead time is very fast.
Yeah, that's impressive. Short lead time. Manufacturing so many components in-house. Even the PCBs, I saw they were working on that yesterday.
Yeah, that's a more recent thing. So up until about a year ago, most of our stuff we've been building off like everybody else does. Open source 3D printer boards that work fantastic, and then you build your own programs, kinematics, and software for the board. Now we're on to the point where we see some downfalls of some of the equipment that we're using, and we're starting to develop custom PCBs to tackle those issues.
Awesome.
One thing we're working on with Clay is full start-stop retraction with the cylinder, and it'll work on almost every machine that we've ever shipped out.
Wow.
So you could come back and purchase this extruder upgrade kit and get immediate retraction on a machine from 5 years ago all the way up to what ships today. And that's kind of what makes another thing that makes us unique. We do our best to support the old machines, and in some cases we'll say, hey, you have an old machine, maybe it's not working as well as it used to, send it in. We'll work with you, we'll upgrade it to modern day electronics, because the skeleton of the machine has stayed very similar throughout the years. The advancements have been in the motor and the programming technology under the hood.
People respect that so much because there's so few technology companies that allow you to upgrade and support old equipment.
Yeah, so a great example of that, Ron Real, he had one of the earliest, what became the Scar Elite. Mm-hmm. He had it for years. They throw it out in the desert, throw a tarp on it, let it rain, come back. We got this thing back all nasty, and you know, it just showed it was still working, but we pulled all the electronics off of it, put a new drive system on it, and it's still working to this day, and he has 2 now, so.
Yeah, that's an awesome level of support and a great way to build the brand perception and stuff like that.
It might not be good because they're, you know, some people say, what's your lifespan of the machine? Currently, we haven't really hit a lifespan limit on the equipment we're selling. Will that happen? I'm not sure. You know, we've been selling this stuff for 7, 8, 9 years. And, you know, specifically with the scars, we've had backwards compatibility with almost everything. So I do take pride in that when I talk to customers. Although it might make us less money in the end, it gives people a better product so that they feel comfortable. Hey, I'm going to buy this. In 5 years from now, if I break something, you guys are going to do your best to help me to get it back up and running.
There's other companies like Cobod, one of your competitors. Some of their customers past the warranty period will ask for support, and they'll say, oh, we'd love to help you, but we're just really busy right now. We don't know when we can get around to it.
No, we have a 1-year standard warranty on all the equipment, and even when you pass that, sometimes there's a little bit of lenience. If we see that it was something on our bad, we're going to do our best to make that up. Or
but even if they're way past that, you're picking up their calls and offering them a support package where you could help them.
Yeah, so, you know, you're going to call and get on the phone with me. I'm going to sell you a machine.
At least give them a quote.
Yeah, I get you a quote. A couple years from now, you're going to come back and it's going to be probably me and Dennis answering the same call. You're going to talk to us. We don't have a huge call center. We're not 40, 50, 100 people, which maybe one day we will be.
Hopefully.
But, currently, you know, you're going to talk to the same people that sold you the machine that are going to help you get the machine up and running, which gives it more of a personalized experience. You know, we want people to have good experiences with our equipment, so we do our best to help you get up and running. That way you share your success story with other people. You want to come back.
A lot of these tech companies trying to enter the construction space don't understand how important that is in the relationship building to the construction industry, more so than like software companies or tech companies.
Exactly. Think about it. Like almost any other industry, you buy something in a couple years, it's bad. That's not the construction industry. You're going to buy that backloader, forklift, pickup truck, and you want that to last a really long time. When you come back around to the same thing with the 3D printer, why would you spend, you know, our package ranges from like 40 all the way up to 160,000 depending on your need. Why would you want to spend that much money, not have the support, and not be able to work with your machine for years? You know, it's not a disposable piece of equipment. We want it to last. This is actually a funny story I want to talk about with this printer. This was the R&D version 1 of our Roadrunner system. We brought it up to date to what we're selling now, but that scar that's sitting on top is roughly 5 years old.
Wow.
Same exact, the distal arm has been changed out, the rail's been changed out, all the castings are the original ones, and we just keep, you know, we don't see a need for us to build a new one and put it out here on the floor. We'd rather show you this machine is old and we just keep upgrading it, and it's working the exact same as the ones that we're shipping today, which is just a testament to, you know, how robust our equipment is.
You still have all the CAD files, so even if it's a little different from what you're shipping today, you can adjust whatever you need to.
Exactly. We have all the CAD files dating back as far as the machine goes, and we try our best to keep mounting patterns for motors and gearboxes identical, you know, time after time. And sometimes we even make adapters to compensate for that, because we'd rather have an adapter so somebody could come back and take it off and put the old gearbox or new gearbox on than kind of say, oh, hey, sorry, we don't have that anymore.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Are you happy with the way this print's looking now?
Yeah, it looks really good. So right now you're seeing kind of a gradient. We're trying out a new thing on this print in particular, where we're taking a more artistic approach to the coloring, where we're not using a mix cell. We're actually dropping it into our mixing and pumping system at random intervals to create this kind of gradient pattern, randomized pattern actually.
Looks great.
Yeah. Again, another thing you can do with our equipment, it's customizable. You could buy your machine and a couple years from now say, hey, I want a mix cell on it. We'll sell you a mix cell to go on your machine where you didn't buy it 5 years ago or a couple years ago.
Is there anything else we should touch on? We just got so much great stuff after the last time I asked that question.
Yeah, no, I think we're good. We ran over, like I said before, you'll say no and then you come back, but I think we're good.
We need stuff to talk about for the next podcast episode too.
Exactly, when you come back inevitably, when we have the next version, the Scar HD, hopefully in the shop.
I'm really hoping that next time I come back, you guys have a house project printing.
I know there are at least 2 or 3 customers working in Florida and outside of Florida on housing projects.
Cool.
So fingers crossed in this next year, you're going to see a 3D Potter machine that built a full house. We've had segments of houses built. We had a stairway built, but by like an independent company. But
yeah, I really hope to see that.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can find Fernando and get him over here.
Yeah, I'll go find him.
So Fernando, I just talked to Danny, I talked to Greg.
Right.
And now you're the current leader of the Build Pro 3D operation of
Right.
3D Potter. Can you explain the business structure there?
Of course, yeah. So basically, as you can see here, we have this beautiful robotic arm that we develop in-house, right? And the idea behind ProBuild 3D is to evolve this technology to the construction business, right? So we have some improvements to implement, right? That's what we are doing here. So the machine is being adapted to be used outdoors, indoors. In terms of transportation, the machine is ready. It's super light, super easy to move around, super easy to set up. So I think we are good there. So right now we're working on specifics around making this machine almost waterproof and a little more robust for a construction environment. And then we have the package with the mixer and the pump, right? So it's really around a specific product for the construction market. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's very smart because construction is so different from regular 3D printing. It's its own beast.
Yeah.
And so your personal career, where did it start?
Okay, so I'm originally from Brazil, right? I am a mechatronics engineer, and I started in the automotive business industry. So I had the chance to work for multiple big automotive corporations. Then I spent some time also in the aerospace business. And now that's why we're trying to bring some of the lessons learned, right, around automation and processes, improvements and stuff like that to the construction sector now.
Is that how you met Danny, through the aviation business?
Yeah, actually, no. Actually, since my 18 years old, I always had my side business. So I was working for big corporations and at the same time having my small businesses. So back in 2018, I had this idea of buying a 3D printer since I have some experience with 3D printing, buy a printer to do some construction, right? And I failed miserably, I would say.
That's a long time ago to have this concept. Not a lot of people were doing that.
Oh yeah, it was back in 2017 actually.
Wait, you weren't 18 in 2000? Oh, in the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in 2017, yeah. So this is when I started to try to buy a printer. We had some options in the market during the time, but of course nothing was fitting my budget, if you will. So in that journey, I met Danny, and we said, you know what? Let's develop something together.
Wow.
Right. And that's what this is.
And at that time, were you working at Volkswagen?
That time I was working for Eaton Corporation.
Cool.
Yeah. And Eaton is a very diversified company. We have automotive, aerospace, electrical, right? So
it's a big corporation. Yeah.
So you were telling me yesterday a little bit about a project you worked on at Volkswagen, the Transparent Factory.
Right.
I had never heard of that. I think many of the viewers maybe haven't either. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. So if you look at back in 2000s, right? Volkswagen had this idea of changing the name of the brand, and not really the name, but the perception, right? Where we could build very fancy cars, right? Very cool technology. So the leadership team during the time decided to do a very state-of-the-art kind of facility in Dresden, in Germany. And then we had the chance to work with, multinational team to put that facility together. Everything was state-of-the-art. It's called Transparent Factory because you don't have walls, right? It's all glass. And so you can see everything happening there, the manufacturing and the office, everything is integrated. It's a really cool environment. We have also there, during those days, I don't know how it is right now, but during those days we had a museum as well, and also a really nice cafe and an experience center for customers that could visit the facility and actually help build the car in some specific stations. So it was a very, like I said, world-class kind of project. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very special thing for capturing the hearts of people and sharing the technology with them. Would you guys ever implement something like that with 3D printed concrete, maybe?
Well, we may, right? The idea is really start with understanding the voice of the customer, what is really required to 3D print. At the end of the day, the technology needs to align better, in my opinion, right, with other processes within construction, other steps, right, when you are building the house or building overall. But definitely we can incorporate some world-class concepts and Industry 4.0 kind of concepts, right, with new technologies, AI, machine vision, AR, VR, who knows, right? Possibilities are limitless.
One way you mentioned you guys are talking about giving people access to the technology, working with it. You're working on a hands-on course.
Yes.
What will that look like?
Yeah, so what we are planning to do is we have this new facility now. So we have space here. So the idea is to have put together, we already have an idea how to do it. We are releasing this soon. It's going to be a hands-on training, Jarek. We're going to be doing basically a quick overview of what are the printers and technologies we have in the market, what kind of materials, and then we're going to go through a start-to-end project. In other words, the team is going to be designing something from scratch in a 3D software. Then we're going to slice this object or this project. Then we're going to import to one of our machines, right? And then we're going to do it. We're going to 3D print it. All of that during this really hands-on workshop. And we're going to try to keep this very generic, right? Of course, we're going to be using our equipment, but the learnings are going to be important for whatever printer you decided to work with.
The mixing process, the design process, all that stuff.
It's pretty much the same, right?
How many people would you recommend show up together on a team for that course?
We are planning to have like a maximum of 10 people per workshop.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, because we want to have a very close relationship with the participants.
What about the minimum?
Minimum is like 2 people, right? I think we could do it. We could make it work for 2 people. Technically, you can do it with 1, right? But I think this is more like a thing that you see the value with teamwork and more than 1 or 2 people working with all the equipment.
I think only maybe Danny can do it with 1. I don't know if there's any other. Can anyone else do just 1?
No.
I'm sure they can get there.
You can get there, yeah.
I did see Danny do it with 1 person the first time I was here. It was on a Sunday or something, and he let me press the button, but I didn't really do anything serious.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's one of the things that we are trying to evolve the equipment towards, right? Two-man operation full-time,
Yeah.
right? Of course, if let's say if you have a workshop with one participant or two, we'll bring someone from our crew to operate the mixer or you know, for instance, we can have a silo, as you know, right? Dumping the material instead of manual loading. We'll figure it out, you know.
The ideal is probably 3 or 4 people show up together.
That would be the optimal scenario.
Very cool. So you're focusing on the construction side. A big part of that is permitting. How
Yes.
do you face that challenge?
Yeah, so we've been through 2 permits so far. I think, well, first things first, right? You need to understand that this is new technology. You know, the building department is going to be worried about also inspections, right? And how we're going to make sure that this is safe and it's going to meet the code and everything. It varies a lot by county. But basically, we've been through the permits with a lot of communication, showing that this material, the materials that we use usually are extremely strong, right? This construction is going nowhere. You need to have a good foundation, right, to sustain all the way. As you know, we had problems with that, right, in one of our projects. And it's really important to understand that this is new and we need to explain all the details to the building department.
In that case, it wasn't a technology problem, though.
No, in that case was, for instance, in that construction specifically, we had a problem with the slab, right? It was cracking. And of course, we're not going to build walls on top of a foundation that is cracking. But the good news is it's all good now. We're going to resume the project. But the building department actually is super excited because, you know, it's new technology. It's in an area that you have hurricanes, a lot of, we are rebuilding. So this technology could be an option for much more resistant and resilient construction, right?
I'm sure they take a lot of the blame for why are there not more houses available on the market.
Absolutely, they do, yeah. They understand that sometimes they are a little bureaucratic, right, if you will. But you know what, this is their role, right? This is, we need to understand all the shareholders in the process, right?
Yeah,
Or
they're very
stakeholders, actually, yeah.
So I guess you communicate with them early on, and what do they want to see in the very early stages?
So they want to see what is the difference in the design of the wall, how this wall is going to look like, especially the external walls that we're going to sustain all the way. They want to understand how you're going to connect the roof, whatever roof you are dealing with, how you're going to tie this down to the foundation or the footers. And honestly, as far as I remember, those are the main points.
So do they have an engineer in the building department?
Usually they do, yes. They will look at some numbers. But one thing that is interesting for people to know is if you have an engineer that is signing the project, right, and being responsible for that project, things are much easier, of course, right?
Yeah, and would that be the person who comes out to look at the print and examine like how you guys are doing? You know?
Yes, it's an engineer that is part of your team, right? You usually, at least here in Florida, for instance, you need a general contractor, right? A structural engineer who's going to sign it, right? So if you do have that, it's much easier for you to approve the permits. Yeah.
And then the next challenge, you go through all the inspections, get the certificate of occupancy,
Right.
And then you need insurance as well.
Yes. So regarding the inspection, you need to be a little creative, right? So we're gonna build the wall, and usually we do hollow walls like this one. So all the electric and plumbing is gonna be in there. So in our case, they're gonna be using mirrors or cameras to inspect. But you know, inspection you figure it out. Regarding the insurance, what we are learning is, depending on the material you use, think about it. This house is going to be fire resistant, not necessarily proof, but resistant, right? Water resistant. This house is going to be more resilient.
Termite resistant.
So termite resistant, right? all those advantages, right? And much stronger for impact and stuff like that.
Especially because some of these cells would be filled with concrete and rebar.
Yeah, exactly. We usually do rebars. We follow the code, right? So we're gonna do the rebars, the columns. Of course, you do the structure for a cell that you're gonna fill up with concrete. So having said that, insurance companies, they are excited about it, but they want to see first one and the performance, right? See some certification, right? Going on, and then my opinion, I think houses like this are gonna have cheaper insurance than regular homes.
I would think they should.
Yeah.
What about banks and construction loans and mortgages?
Yeah, exactly. Construction loan and mortgages, they will require insurance, by the way.
So is that how that step works? If you can get the insurance, then the banks kind of just sign off on it as well? It's the insurance is the step?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So in our experience, we are in contact with one specific bank that approach us actually and say, hey, can I finance this house if the new owner wants to do a mortgage? So yeah, sure. And they have a partnership with one specific insurance company. But definitely, if you want to do a mortgage, you really need to have the insurance, right? Mm-hmm. This is a requirement. So they walk hand to hand, right?
Are those the biggest challenges in bringing this to the construction site, or is it something else you think?
Well, here I think we talk a lot about this. I think this technology needs to become viable technology, right? A lot of people, we all our partners and in the market, they say the same thing. We should be better, faster, cheaper, right? Smarter, right? And I think the challenge is exactly that. Right now, our costs, right, when you build a house like this, is still higher. The uncertainties are still high. Right?
Unless you account for the unique design. So like you wouldn't be able to, if you're after the most cheapest house you can find, maybe you're not competing with that. But if you're after a design like this,
you can't beat it. If you have a good design, you can beat it. And that's the point that I was about to make. You need to leverage the strengths of the technology.
Yeah.
This technology is going to give you a really nice design, much theoretically much higher quality product, right? A house. So you need to leverage those things. So people are going to stop looking at cost uniquely, but you look at the value, right? And the value added that you're giving to them.
And it's all an evolution. So
yeah, it is.
Ultimately, I think, and I think a lot of the viewers think, you probably think too, the future of construction has got to be automated.
Oh yeah. I think there are a lot of things in the construction that are not so ergonomic, if you will. And I think we should be working on technologies like this one to really make the work easier for human beings and also faster.
Yeah.
As you know, we are running behind, right? We need more homes, and automation is one of the solutions that, for instance, we leverage in aerospace, in automotive, to ramp up production, productivity, right?
Construction is one of the last industries to see the benefits of all those things.
Yeah. So it's really, you know, a lot of people are now engaged. I would say 5 years ago, just the early adopters were experimenting with this. Now you're seeing a lot of more competitors or a lot of more players, if you will, in the market. So I think it's an excellent moment to jump in, you know, excellent moment.
The person on my last podcast that hasn't been released yet made that same point and said it was early adopters. But I think it's more before, in the past 5 years, it's been only the crazy people.
Yeah.
And now it's at a point where early adopters are jumping in.
Right.
And then after the early adopters get in, then it really hits mass market.
Right.
And,
yeah, I think it's fair. Yeah, it's true.
But it's fun being the crazy people and being involved in the birth of a new technology, as you got to see from 2017, where it was really just like in the dirt, to now it's the foundation and it's getting better and better.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. We're seeing new materials right out there. We're seeing new technologies. So it's very exciting market to work with.
Is there any particular material development that you're optimistic for or hoping for?
Well, as you know, we have a very strong partnership with Sika, right? Excellent materials. We are really looking forward for a geopolymer type of materials, more like less Portland cement, right, in the formulation, leveraging wastes and byproducts that we have out there. I think this is something that everybody's excited about, you know. And of course, fireproof, waterproof, right, materials. This is really exciting.
Yeah, I've got to see those things to believe it, but I hope they're out there, and I hope they'll
Yeah, me too.
reach the market soon.
Me too.
Do you think that it's more alkali-based geopolymers or silica-based that gets you more excited?
Alkaline based, you always have that special care when you're handling. Usually you have 3 components, right? I think the other option is better, at least theoretically, right? And it may be easier for you to print with it and mix on site and prepare your own variation, right? Add color. So that's what I believe. Again, I'm not a materials expert, but that's what I'm hearing from the experts.
And so when you were doing your exploratory phase of the 3D printed construction, what made you fall in love with 3D Potter particularly?
Well, first of all, when Danny and I and the team here, we start to work together, the synergy around testing new things, the speed of creating new things. It's unbelievable how fast we can put a prototype together here. We have a small crew, but very capable. And all the open mind, right, to test new things and new possibilities. So in a very short period of time, we're able to develop a bigger system, color, that is capable to print with very little material in progress, which is great. Smaller hoses, right? It is also great. So really this speed of getting new things done is really what attracts me.
Yeah, that's smart. I think people ask me, what's your favorite printer? Which printer should I buy? And I say they all go XYZ axis. So what you should look at is the team behind the printer, because you're going to be working with them constantly in like a relationship where you're trying to develop things for the future. And the printers are all similar enough. It's the people behind the printers that you should make a decision based on.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of printers in the market that work really well, right? But you really need to think about support, and you need to think about a crew that is behind it, supporting and giving you all the help you need. Unfortunately, this technology is not like push a button and print yet, right? Maybe one day, right?
I think it will be like that one day, but it's going to take a lot of work to get there.
Oh yeah, take a lot of work to get there for sure.
But that's the fun part of the story.
Oh yeah, we're having a lot of fun here. And our partner is a competitor as well, for sure.
Yeah, Danny described your side of the company as, Danny isn't in it to like grow a massive business necessarily. He likes working on his passion. He said the growing part of the business is your part of the business.
Right, yeah. So we decided to put a strategic planning together for the next 5 years, really scaling up production, and as you know, we sell worldwide, right? So defining really clear market niches and segments, right? So we have a lot of customers in universities, research centers, so we're addressing that market a little more aggressively. We have a lot of customers that are trying to do objects, landscaping, artists, right? So they have a special need. And then finally construction, that all we are trying to do basically is walls and auxiliary elements in a construction, like maybe an integrated fireplace or a fountain, or a column. So we need to customize the products to each customer segment and try to find what we call a value innovation, where we bring innovation, we bring the value, and try to keep costs reasonable, right, for our customers.
I think that's a great plan. Is there anything, what else did we miss that we should talk about?
Well, I think labor is really critical. So one thing that we are doing is we are really trying to develop a workforce to work with this kind of technology. People that are working with masonry, work in construction, they need to understand that this is another option, right? I can use this kind of tool, right, to build the house as well, and should be on the table. Of course, in some cases, back to your point, if you're going to build something simple, squared, and you have a budget, do traditional or do pre-mold or whatever. But if you want to do something that has a different design or requires one of a kind stuff, bring this technology to the table. So workforce is super important, So we are working really to develop workforce.
What's the best way to do that?
Well, we are engaging with universities. We are talking to some organizations and associations. Unions, and some government programs that we have out there. We really need to think about workforce. It's really critical. Yeah.
That was a good one. Is there anything else?
No, I think that's it.
We got to save some stuff for the next podcast we do.
Okay. And we are going to be here. We are developing a lot of new stuff. Soon enough, we're going to have our next generation of printers. We're going to go bigger, bolder, and looking forward to our next conversation for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.